Right, we've reached the final part of the Bristol 2020 Hi-Fi show coverage here by myself, Eden Audio, and I'm just going to talk you through my thoughts on the show, what I thought was the best sounding products, what I thought was the best value for money products, and also the kind of products that didn't impress me all that much. As I say, I went there on the Sunday. Just to restate what I said in the first episode I made of this coverage, is that I'd only just come out of hospital, so I wasn't feeling absolutely fantastic. And to be brutally honest, I really shouldn't have even been there, because I'm only just about to start my rehabilitation. That's going to be going on for the next 2 months. So I wasn't at full strength, and I was rather worried whether or not I'd actually be able to make it through the day. Luckily, I did. Another reason that the footage is probably a little bit shaky is I'm not a professional. It's the first time I've actually done it. And I do actually use a professional Panasonic camera. Now, I'm not walking around with a light little mobile phone. If you want mobile phone quality, then I'm not the channel for you, because I want my channel to look as high quality as I possibly can. And that means using a professional Panasonic camera. But not only have I got the camera, I also need to add a monitor, an external preamplifier to make the recording, and I also need a light. The reason for this is because when you tend to go to a hi-fi show, the rooms tend to be dark. So to get a good footage of the products that were on show, I needed a light, so I didn't need to bump up the ISO too much so that the footage wouldn't look too grainy. So once you add all of those accessories, plus the camera, plus the lens, you're carrying around quite a weight from 10 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're the two main reasons why the footage is probably a little bit shaky in places. But also, what you've got to remember in a show, you're not the only person in that room. There are other punters that are there to listen to gear. And these people will get up and they'll walk in front of you. Or you need to get out of the way for them so they can come in and out. Or they may accidentally bump into you. All of this means that the footage isn't going to be perfect. If someone bumps into you, then you've lost your footage. Or if someone stands right in front of the speaker, then again, it's not going to end up in great footage. The show is not for my benefit, it's for the benefit of everybody. So when you do get these recordings, or when you do try to make these recordings, you've got to bear in mind that these are the sort of situations that you do actually have to work with. The end result is that you're not going to get a beautiful piece of cinematic footage. Anyway, back onto the show. As I say, I actually went on the Sunday. I didn't go the Friday and the Saturday. I only went on the Sunday. I've been going previous years, and my initial impression when I first walked into there is that the numbers seem to have been down. As I say, I didn't go on the Saturday and I didn't go on the Friday, and other people said it was really, really busy. So that's great. Fantastic news. But to me on the Sunday, I just thought that the numbers seemed to be slightly down on last year. I don't know the exact reason. It may have been the terrible, terrible weather that we've been having here in England the last month. It just hasn't stopped raining. That could have put people off. Or also this rotten coronavirus that's just going media mad, where it's frightening the life out of everybody, where everybody doesn't seem to want to leave their home. So there's a couple of possible reasons why the numbers are actually down this year. I also thought that the number of exhibitors was down this year. There didn't seem to be as many manufacturers demonstrating and showing their products this year. I don't know. But it just seemed to me that the numbers were slightly down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my concluding thoughts of what I thought about the show. Now, before we get started, let me make it a little bit clear. I'd like to give you a little bit of idea of my personal view on audio, how I am, what I like and what I dislike in audio. Firstly, if you watched other uploads of mine, you will probably know or realise that I'm not a massive fan, or I don't know much about headphone listening. I rarely put on a pair of headphones to listen to music. I am a pure stereo man. I like to listen through a pair of loudspeakers. And I'm also just music, stereo, that's it. I'm not into home cinema in the slightest. I could watch a film in black and white and in mono. I'm just not that bothered about home cinema. doesn't interest me in the slightest. And that also includes subwoofers. Now, I know some people love subwoofers, but I just, personally, I don't have no interest in subwoofers, either for, as I say, home cinema or music. And the funny thing is that, to me, the best sounding rooms at this year's Bristol show were rooms that were actually using stand mount as loudspeakers. So I say, I'm not a person that, when I'm listening to music, I'm craving for a lot of bass. Also, I'm not a person that listens to music at extremely loud volumes. I don't like loud things, whether it be loud cars, motorbikes, whatever. I don't like a lot of noise. When I listen to music, personally, I tend to listen at very moderate volume lessons. I get very nervous and stressed out if the volume becomes too loud. I find I become extremely fatigued, and I don't want to listen to much music if the volume is too loud. So that's just a little background of where I'm coming from when I talk about the things that I liked at the show and the things I didn't like at the show. Now, when you see other people's comments that they've made on the show, you may have watched other videos or you may have read reviews on the internet, you would have noticed, or you will notice, that we've all got different opinions, and that's fine. I have absolutely zero problem with that at all, because believe me, I am not a guru. I do not enforce my opinion on other people. All I'm telling you is what I like personally. What other people like, that's fantastic. That's their choice. They can like whatever they want. All I'm doing is telling you what I liked personally about the show. As I say, for me, I enjoyed most of the rooms that seem to be having stand mounted speakers for some reason or other. But now I'm going to talk about value for money. And probably for me, the best value for money was probably the Riga room. Now, I say this because as I was filming, I wasn't hugely aware of what kind of prices that the equipment was. I was trying to do as much as I possibly could, or film as much as I possibly could, in a very limited time period. As I say, I only had about 7 or 8 hours to try and get as much coverage in that as I possibly could. So I couldn't spend hours making interviews or listening to lots and lots of tracks. I had to get in and get out as quick as I possibly could. So I say I wasn't that sure of what the prices were of a lot of the products that are on there. But I did realise afterwards that Riga were offering a system for just £1,000, which is quite difficult to achieve, especially for a manufacturer that's based here in the UK. If you're probably based in the Far East, you'll probably find it more common that these companies can get prices to market at lower points. But for a British manufacturer that are making products here in the United Kingdom, I think Riga have done a fantastic job. I thoroughly enjoyed their room, what they had on demo. It sounded cracking to my ears, and that it cost £1,000 was just a plus. It was just a very basic system of their entry-level turntable. It's a good entry-level turntable. You can do far, far better, but again, it's going to cost you more money. For what Riga were offering for the price really was good. I think it was a new pair of loudspeakers, Riga Kites or something like that. It could possibly have been that they were about to re-release. But as I say, Riga were offering, I thought, an exceptional value for money system. The best sounding room of the show, well, that really is a how long is a piece of string question, because I thought there was quite a few very good sounding rooms at the show. Ones that stood out probably were Exposure. I thought their amplifiers and the speakers they were using were absolutely phenomenal. And they were using, I think in one room they were using Kerr. It was a new brand to me. That sounded exceptional as well. But I think slightly pipping them was the Kudos. I thought the Kudos Audio and the Exposure amplifiers sounded absolutely awesome. I absolutely loved the sound of that. Extremely transparent and dynamic sound. Wonderful. I loved that. I also enjoyed very much the Avid room. That's another brand I'm not that familiar with. I'm not that familiar with their products, but the turntable and the amplifier and their little stand mount speakers they had in that room, yet again, I thought was offering exceptional sound quality. A room that was a bit of a surprise for me because I really do like the Dali room. Now, I say it surprised me because generally, or most times I hear Dali speakers, I really, really enjoy them. I think they're absolutely fabulous sounding loudspeakers. But for some odd reason, when I went into the Dali room, it sounded absolutely horrendous. I don't know the reason why, but the bass, I think you can probably hear it in the recording that I made, that the bass was extremely boomy. It sounded absolutely horrible. It might have been the music, actually, that they chose to use for that on that particular track, but it sounded absolutely horrible. Really, really was. I was surprised. As I say, generally, I really, really enjoy listening to Dali loudspeakers, so that was a little bit of a surprise, but I'll put that down. I'll let Dali off on that one because I think it was probably the music they were playing at that particular time. Going back to a room that, again, I thought sounded absolutely fantastic. I've never heard them before since I've been here in the UK, and that is Living Voice. They made tremendous effort. They went to a huge amount of effort in setting up their room. They were using battery powered, and it paid off as far as I was concerned, because the Living Voice room, again, sounded absolutely awesome. They've done an absolutely wonderful job there. Another room that I thoroughly enjoyed was the Funk Firm. Arthur was demonstrating the difference between I think it was a Riga PA against his Rage, where he takes a basic Riga turntable, adds the Boing Fee, he adds an Acromat, he adds the Funk Firm tone arm, and he compares his turntable, the Rage, against the Riga 8. And as I say, from the comparison that you heard, the Funk lost absolutely nothing out to one of sort of Riga's top turntables. Really thoroughly enjoyable demonstration that was. And the speakers they used, let me have a look. I'm trying to remember the name of them. Yeah, Curvy Hi-Fi, I think was the name of the brand of the speakers that the Funk Firm were using. Again, it sounded exceptional. A lovely balanced sound to that room. There's nothing stood out. It was lovely balanced. No boomy bass in that room, which I really, really enjoyed. Another room that I liked was the Scottish manufacturer, Finn Audio. I thought they sounded excellent. A lot of people may be a bit torn on the looks of the Finn Fine. I think it's Finn Fine, the Fine loudspeakers. But to me, I don't really have a problem with their look. And again, I thought the sound quality in that room was exceptional. Every time I go to Bristol, there's one room that always stands out for me, and that is Harbuth. And yet again, Harbuth did it for me. I just don't know why. I just love the sound of Harbuth speakers. Now, again, I hear people say that Harbuth are boring, they're old-fashioned. Not to my ears, they're not. They sound absolutely lovely. They're, again, expensive. They're not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but again, I could listen to Harbuth without feeling any sort of fatigue whatsoever. I can listen to them. I really can listen to them for hours and hours on end. Love them. As I said, again, expensive, but again, I personally enjoy listening to those. Hegel and Amphion, absolutely fantastic sound. Again, they were playing Yellow when I went in there. They were playing a video of Yellow in concert, and that sounded absolutely awesome. Now, I'm probably going to like Amphion loudspeakers because they're very, very closely related to Aurelia. It was the same designer of Aurelia who did the Amphion range of loudspeakers, so the tonality of them is very similar. And as I say, it was a system, the Hegel with the Hegel, that I thought sounded absolutely superb. Another brand that I always thoroughly enjoy, I used to sell their loudspeakers when I lived in Spain, and that is Neat Acoustics. And again, they were doing an absolutely fantastic job with their new range of loudspeakers. Again, I could have listened to that room for hours and hours on end. They were matched up with I think they were an Italian brand, Italian or French, Norma amplifiers. Again, it's a new name to me. I'd never heard of Norma amplifiers before. But yeah, it sounded absolutely beautiful, extremely transparent, lovely tone. Again, it was a system that I enjoyed and I could have listened to for hours and hours on end. So they're probably the rooms that stood out most to me, the rooms that I enjoyed the most. Now, the room that I probably didn't enjoy that much, and as I say, I didn't visit home cinema rooms because I'm not into home cinema at all. from the rooms and the coverage that I've done, there's obviously quite a few rooms that I've missed out, and I apologise to those rooms that I've missed. And also, if you close the door, then I'm not going to come in. As far as I'm concerned, a closed door means no entry. So if you close your door, I'm not going in, and I'm not waiting for you. I've just seen another name that I've missed out. I don't know, again, if I'm pronouncing this right. Voxative. I don't know how you pronounce that. But again, they use a wideband driver in their loudspeakers, and that was exceptional. I love the sound of wideband loudspeakers because the mid-range and the purity of voices is stunning. Yep, I love that room very, very much. But getting back to, as I say, the rooms I probably don't enjoy. I just don't get it. I just don't get adding huge quantities of subwoofers. I'm sorry. I really am sorry, but I just don't get it. I thought it sounded better without the subwoofers. There you go. Anyway, that's my coverage of the Bristol 2025. 2025? We're still in 2020. Trying to wish away the years. Bristol 2020.